going to do now is just focus on this concept of the shared service center, and recent pressure on credit, on liquidity management has meant that shared service centers has become very high on the agenda for corporate treasurers. And joining us now to discuss this is Daniel Flatt. He is the editor of the Corporate Treasurer. Also with us is Hubert Joly. He is a managing director, channel and enterprise services at Citi Transaction Services. And also with us, Lee Thong Tan, general manager, group finance at International SOS. Thanks very much for joining us, everybody. Let's start with why shared service centers are so important at the moment.
Well, from what I understand from the treasurers that speak to me, from the practitioners on the banking side, I think visibility is absolutely key for them. They want to know exactly where their money is, and they want to have as much control over that money as possible. So the discussions will be, how do we do that? How expensive will it be to do that in the first place? And how much money will we save, and how much control over that cash flow will we have going forward? So that clearly requires a lot of conversations at the higher levels of the company to make sure that everyone's aligned to do it. But the end goal is very simple: visibility and control over money.
Well, I think what we see at Citi is our clients, as they grow and become larger corporations, they grow across geographies, they increase their number of business units. What they're looking to do in a shared service center is essentially centralize their treasury function and centralize how they essentially manage their cash, their working capital, their suppliers, so they're both their accounts payable and their accounts receivable. And as they've grown as a company, they may have multiple units done by various institutions, and by centralizing, they gain efficiencies of scale, they get better procurement terms vis-a-vis their suppliers, and overall they get to better manage their cash, which is why most corporates make that investment once they're sizable enough.
Yep. As a global company headquartered in Singapore, we want to make sure that we have control and visibility, as Daniel has mentioned. That's very important because we operate 180 legal entities across 70 countries, and therefore visibility is of utmost important, especially when it comes to counterparty risk. We need to know where our cash are, and therefore centralizing in Singapore definitely give us the edge in terms of that component. And of course, in terms of better bargaining power when it comes to the bank in terms of transaction, whether it be on the loan side or forex side, placement fixed fee, we all have the advantage there in terms of concentration.
So you've done the hard work, you've done this.
Exactly.
Tell everybody what that experience was like. What are some of the things that you wish you knew now that you didn't know then?
Yeah, I think the, so first of all, from the negotiation side, I think that is actually the first hurdle that we have to cross, especially when you're doing everything at corporate level and you're rolling it out to the rest of the world. You need to negotiate with the bank, and if you have a couple of banks, is that negotiation bit is always the most challenging bit, to bring everyone together to a table. Once you cross that, then of course it comes to working with each one of them individually and trying to link them into your corporate procedure and corporate systems. And that's the other bit where we have just embarked on a journey of implementing a treasury management system as well as SWIFT. And that's where we see another hurdle where different banks have got different format, and both from a legal side as well as technology side. And these are things that is a bit unknown when you went into it. When you're deep into it, then you realize that there's a lot of work that needs to be worked out to standardize all this thing. So I think if I were to do it again, I would have done more research and understand a bit more.
Yes. And what would you want from the banks? You've got a bank sitting down next to you.
Yeah.
What specifically would you want from this gentleman here?
Yeah, the banks should come together, and agree on certain platform and format, because right now, a lot of us as corporate, we were told that things can be done, it's easy, everything is standardized, XML is the buzzword, but when we went into it, it's not exactly. And therefore, if banks can come together, have a common agreement, I think that's important, because the next phase in terms of EBAM is also very key. And from my understanding is that it's not exactly there yet, because the banks are still coming together to have a common platform and format.
Well, I agree. I think that a lot of banks are looking at connectivity. And when you set up a shared service center, you say, well, how have I been connecting with my banks? I'm going to centralize it, maybe reduce the number of banks I have. And typically, corporates in the past would have used an online banking platform that's typically specific to the banks. They would have done a custom map file that's, again, very specific to each bank. And therefore, it makes it difficult for a corporate to deploy a shared service center and gain efficiencies of scale. So some banks, and Citi is definitely one, we believe in the fact that we want our clients to be able to use SWIFT for connectivity, as well as standardized industry formats. So you have ISO 20022 XML, which is a fancy term for connecting on a real time with your bank in a standardized way, so that if you want to move to another bank provider, or if you want to expand, you're growing, you're a successful corporate, and you need to establish a new market, you know how to communicate with your existing banks. We fully support it. Some banks don't. And I think it's the reason is, if a client is really embedded into how they connect with you as a bank, it's really hard for them to move.
Yeah.
So some banks see connectivity as a barrier to entry to other providers.
Yeah.
We don't at Citi. If a client wants to connect with us, we want to make it as easy as possible. So we're very key to work with SWIFT and other providers to essentially make it easier for the corporates.
It's a question I want to ask all of you. I'll start with you, Daniel, first of all. We've talked about how to set things up. What could go really wrong, and how do you stop things wrong happening?
I'm sure a lot could go wrong, but I think it essentially boils down to language on a lot of levels. And as JP was saying, if you can speak the same language at a connectivity level, that makes a difference. If you can speak the same language with internally, making sure that that you get the buy-in up front, you get the teams regionally speak the same language and understand what you're doing this and why you're doing this and the benefits they're going to gain for the company, that's critical. Legal language, making sure you've dotted everything and you've double-checked it. So I guess if you don't do that, something will pop up because this is a big process.
What could go wrong?
I think what could typically go wrong for a corporate is if you decide to set up a shared service center just for cost reasons. So you're going to say, I'm in multiple markets and I'm going to outsource it or offshore it very, very quickly to a lower cost market or a low cost provider. And if you do that too quickly without clearly understanding what your processes are, how they are done, if you don't re-engineer them, if you don't have the right steps, you're going to end up getting a one-time expense gain potentially, but over time it's probably going to deteriorate in terms of service, and that's not only going to impact your supplier, it's going to impact your payroll, how you collect funds, which is core to your business. So making a one-time gain move, I think it's going to hurt the corporate in the medium to long term.
Yeah, I agree too, because right now we are putting it in two phases. The first phase is only at corporate level, just to make sure that we're able to connect and do everything as it should, as we were told. And the next phase is to then roll out to our shared services to do all the other stuff. But before that, we have to align processes, because it's no use putting a process that is not working, right, into a new technology. So we have to re-engineer the processes such that it can work more efficiently with the new technology.
Okay, well, thanks to all of you for joining us. Very
Thanks.
interesting
Thank you.
chat
Thank you very
there.
much.